Welcome back to the Python programming series. Today, we'll be covering one of the most powerful concepts in Python, object-oriented programming. OOPS. We'll be discussing what OOPS is, why it's used, and how we can write reusable and real-world programs. So without further delay, let's dive into this journey of OOPS in Python. Firstly, let us understand the history of OOPS in Python. So OOPS became a core part of Python since its early versions. We all know that Python was created by Guido van Rossum in the year 1991. So Python supports OOPS fully because everything in Python is treated as an object. Alright? It combines the power of OOPS with simple syntax, making it beginner friendly and powerful. Coming to what is OOPS. So we all know OOPS is object-oriented programming. It's a programming paradigm based on the concept of objects. Now what is an object? An object is a real-world entity that has both a state and a behavior. State in programming refers to the data here and behavior refers to the methods. For example, let us take the example of a real-world object. We have mobiles, so mobiles have state. So for state, we'll consider the model name, color, battery life, whether it is switched on or off. And for behavior, whether call ringing, recording videos, camera capturing, and all of that is considered in the behavior of an object. I hope the state and behavior of an object is clear. Now, why OOPS? So OOPS helps in code reusability, better organization, it is easy to maintain and update, scalable, real-world modeling, and improves productivity. So the core idea behind OOPS in Python was, think of your program as a group of objects working together to solve a problem. Here each object has its own data and can perform actions, right? So this led to the foundation of OOPS. Coming to the fundamental concepts of OOPS, we have three fundamental concepts: encapsulation, inheritance, and polymorphism. So starting with what is encapsulation, encapsulation is wrapping data, variables and code together in a single unit. Here data is the variables and code refers to the methods in a single unit, that is a class. It also restricts direct access to some data. So encapsulation is a combination of abstraction and information hiding. Let us take a real world example, a capsule in medicine. So the medicine inside is protected by a capsule. You can only use it, not see how it works inside, right? So here comes the concept of information hiding and abstraction put together form encapsulation. A capsule in a medicine. In Python, this is the example of encapsulation. We'll be discussing it. So data is hidden and assessed through methods. In case of encapsulation, the data is hidden and it is assessed through methods. Just have an overview of it. We'll be discussing it in detail in the later session. Next we have inheritance. It allows a new class, for example a student class or a child class, to inherit the properties of the parent class, right? Just like in real life, a child inherits traits from parents, for example eye color, height. Similarly, in Python we have the concept of inheritance, wherein a class inherits the attributes and methods of an existing class. Next we have polymorphism. So from the word itself, polymorphism means many forms, right? So the ability of different objects to respond to the same method call in different ways is termed as polymorphism in OOPS and Python. Real world example, a person behaves differently as a student at school, a friend at home, and an employee at office. right? The person is same, but it responds in different ways, in different surroundings, right? So OOPS helps us write code that is modular, reusable, and closer to the real world. Now there's a note here that a class is an example of encapsulation as it binds together the data and its associated functions under one unit. So as per the definition of encapsulation even, we can say that class is an example of encapsulation. Alright. So OOPS languages are diverse, but the most popular ones are class based. Okay, meaning objects are instances of class which also determine their types. So now coming to the most important question, what is a class? You might be wondering that what is a class? So a class is used to represent real world scenarios and things, and we create objects based on those classes. So in simple terms, you can say that a class is a blueprint or a design, whereas an object is an instance of a class. So in OOPS, a class has two properties, attributes and methods. It helps you define variables and methods common to all objects of a certain kind. The data which is stored in variables, the qualities basically, they are termed as the attributes or the field. Whereas the code that can assess data to give the output, that is termed as methods or functions. Now, what is instantiation? It is the process of creating an object from a class. When you create an object from a class, as we have discussed, that object is an instance of a class. That process, when you create that object, that is termed as instantiation. Alright, remember this term, instantiation. For example, now let's go to the programming part. How do you create a class and then an object? So, there's an example. Suppose we need to build a class car for Honda company. Here we have the class as car. The variables name and color are the attributes of the class. A method getSpeed is defined inside the class, which does some manipulation of the attributes and returns the output. We have discussed it that methods do some manipulation and return some output. Then Honda City is the instance or the object that we create of the class car. So let us have a look at the sample code. Here we are creating a class car, and next we're defining a method, the init method. It gets created by default, and inside it we are passing the attributes of name and color and then initializing those attributes using self.name is name and self.color is equal to color. Next we are defining the method getSpeed that is there in the example. So this method, it sets the speed of the car and returns you some output after doing manipulation. Right? So this is the task performed by the getSpeed method. Next, you want to create an object which is Honda City. So Honda City is equal to, you mention the class name car and then in brackets you mention the arguments Honda City, which is the name, and red, which is the color. You can even call the method, so you get some output. How do you do that? You mention the object name dot the method name. Next, let us discuss the difference between procedural programming versus OOPS, object-oriented programming with Python. So in procedural programming, the emphasis is more on procedures to be implemented, functions and methods, right? So the emphasis is more on the procedures that need to be implemented, whereas OOPS focuses on a problem in terms of object or real world entities which are involved. Okay, so OOPS deals with real world objects. Next we have, what is an object? So it is a software bundle of variables and related methods. After having a detailed discussion, we can clearly say that an object is a software bundle of variables and the methods, right? So now let us quickly take a quick recap of what is a class and an object. A class is a user-defined data type. It's a blueprint for creating objects. And there are two things. It defines the attributes, which is data, and the methods, which is functions. So basically the behavior. Next we have, what is an object? Instance of a class. It has its own identity, state and behavior, and it is created using a class. Firstly, you create a class and then the instance of that class is an object. Let us understand it with a real world example. Supposing you have a building plan, right? So that building plan will be your class. And then you create an instance of that class based on that building plan. So that would be the actual building that you have built. So it would be considered an object, right? A real world entity. Coming to the attributes, the qualities that it possesses, right? The data contained. So those would be the rooms, the color, the size, right? Those traits. And then we have the methods. So the methods will include turning on light and then opening doors, closing doors. Those functions are termed as methods. So I hope this real world example helped you understand the key concept behind OOPS in Python, right? So Python fully supports OOPS and it helps in building modular, reusable and efficient programs. So a class is a combination of two things, data members and member functions. Okay. Now let us understand encapsulation in detail. So we have discussed that encapsulation is abstraction plus information hiding. So what is abstraction now? It is the technique to identify all essential characteristics. Okay. And what is information hiding? So it hides unnecessary info from the outside entities. So hiding unnecessary info from outside entities is information hiding, and abstraction is identifying all essential characteristics and showing it to the outside world. Okay. Coming to the advantages of encapsulation. It prevents accidental modification or misuse of data or by any outside entity. And it provides programmers with better control over flow of data in their programs. So we have discussed a class consists of two things, data members and member functions. So data members are further classified into private, protected and public. Okay. So there are certain restrictions. Now let us understand classes, objects and attributes with the syntax. So how do you create a class? So a class is a blueprint or a template for creating objects. You mention the class keyword and then the class name. And here we are not writing anything for the time being. So it acts as a placeholder. We have an example. We are creating an empty class named student. So class student and pass. Okay. Next, let's define attributes using the init. So attributes are variables that belong to a class or object. We use the init method to initialize the attributes. So for example, we take a class student. We start defining a method which is the init method to initialize the attributes. Okay, we use the def keyword init and then in braces you mention self, name, age and course These are the attributes. Okay, and then you initialize the attributes as self.name is equal to name, self.age is equal to age, and self.course is equal to course. Okay, so here is an example we just discussed. So here the self refers to the current object or the calling object, and the name, age, course are the attributes. Okay, let us understand what is self in detail now. So self is a reference to the current object, the instance of the class, right? The calling object. It is the first parameter of every method. Self is the first parameter of every method, and we use self to assess attributes and methods inside a class. So that is why self acts as a reference to assess the attributes and methods. So think of self as I, the object itself. Next we have introduction to constructor, which is the init. We discussed the init method and we understood that it is a special method wherein you initialize the variables. Okay? You set the initial values of attributes and it is called automatically when an object is created. Okay? So firstly, the workflow goes like you create an object and then the init method is called automatically, wherein the attributes are initialized. Next, we create objects. So let us understand that now. Objects are instances. So we use the class name followed by parenthesis to create an object. So you mention the object name and then is equal to class name, and in brackets you mention the arguments. So for example, we write S1, this would be the object, the class name student, and in brackets you will mention the parameters, okay, the arguments. Here name, age and course is mentioned. Next we are creating another object S2, you mention the class name and in brackets the arguments, name, age and course. So here S1 and S2 are objects of the class student. Okay. Next, so how do you assess these attributes? So to assess these attributes, we use the dot operator. So the dot operator is used to assess attributes of an object. So you write object name dot attribute name. So if we write S1 dot name, we will get Ananya. If we write S1 dot age, we get 20. S1 dot course, we'll get CSC, right? So the object S1 stores these values. Name as Ananya, age as 20 and course as CSC. So you can use the dot operator and assess those values. Now let us look at a complete example which will make things easier to understand. So we are defining a class using the class keyword. Class name is student. Next we define the init method, which is a special method that is called automatically. We have self that acts as a reference and is the first argument of every method almost. Then name, age, course are the attributes, the parameters that you pass. This is how you initialize the attributes. Self.name is equal to name, self.age is equal to age, and self.course is equal to course. Next, you wish to create an object. So to create an object, you will write S1 is equal to class name, which is student, and in brackets, you mention the arguments, name, age, and course. You create another object S2, class name, and the arguments. So to assess the attributes, you use the dot operator. So on printing S1.name, we'll get an Ananya. S1.age 20, S1.course CSC, S2.name will give us Rohan, S2.age will give us 21, and s2.course will give us IT. Okay, so these will be the output. So the flow of a program starts with you create a class, then you define the attributes using the init method. Once defined, you create objects, which is the instance of the class. And then to assess the attributes, you make use of
dot operator. Alright.
So OOPS makes code more organized and you can reuse it as well. So always remember, create a class, then use the init method to initialize the attributes. Next, you create objects and then dot operator to assess attributes. Moving to the next important concept, which is methods in a class. So methods are functions that are defined inside a class and they represent the behaviors or actions that the objects can perform. Just like attributes, which is the data, methods belong to the class. Okay. The syntax is you mention the class name, and then def keyword, you define the method name in brackets self comma parameters. Okay, and then you can write the function that the code will perform. For example, you create a class named student. You start defining, firstly you initialize the variables using the init method. So to initialize the arguments, the attributes name and age will be initialized like this. Next, you create the introduce method using the def keyword with self as a parameter, which will print hi I am, and then it will fetch self.name and my age is self.age. So now you create an object s1 and you call the object, so s1 dot introduce, so it will take you to the method. Okay, and the output will be this. I hope it is clear. Let's understand the self parameter. It refers to the calling object. It's the first parameter, helps the method assess the attributes and other methods of the same object. So self simply means I, the calling object. Okay. So for example, when you define the init method, self is the first parameter. When you define the show method, we have self as a parameter. Then we have C object created, and then on writing C.show, it takes you to this method. So self inside show refers to the object C, and we will get the output as brand, the brand name, speed, and the speed. Okay. Now you can even modify object attributes using methods. So we can change the values of attributes of an object using methods. So for example, we have a class account. You start with the init method. The attributes are owner and balance. You initialize those attributes. Next method you create is the deposit method, which takes two parameters, self and amount. So self.balance plus equal to amount. You are modifying this attribute. Okay, and then you can get it printed. Okay, next you are even creating a withdraw method. So you are making use of if else statement in this case. If self.balance is greater than equal to amount, you will modify the balance and then print it, else you will write insufficient balance. There's another method created, show balance, so it will print the owner name and the balance. So now for example, we have created an object over here, account, right? You mention the class name and in brackets you mention the arguments. So account.showBalance will give you the output as Rohan's balance 1000, right? So we are using the show balance method here, this one. Next we are writing account or deposit of 500. So now we'll move to the deposit method and the balance gets updated. Okay, so now the deposited amount is 500. We'll get the amount over here and the new balance would be increased by 500, which makes it 1500 this time. Okay, so earlier it was 1000, now plus equal to 500 will make it 1500. Next we'll go to the withdraw method. So on calling the withdraw method using the object name, you're passing 200 as the amount. Okay, so withdrew amount would be 200 and the new balance now, since the balance which is 1500 is greater than equal to 200, so it would be subtracted. Okay, so 1500 minus 200 will give you 1300. Okay, and lastly you again use the show balance method. So now it would be modified to 1300. Okay, so this ways you can modify the object attributes using methods. Next, let's move to using self variable as a method parameter. So we can pass self, the object, to another method if needed, and let us understand how we can do that. So we have a class calculator. You initialize the variables self.value is equal to value, and next method we have add self.value plus equal to other. So you are using it to modify self.value, right? Next method is add from object. So it adds the value from another object using this expression self.value plus equal to other object dot value. Okay, now the show method will print the value. How you can use it? Let's have a look. We have an object C1 over here. We are passing the value as 10. Another object C2, passing the value as 20. So C1 dot add of 5. Let us see the add method. So it will increase the value by 5 now, right? So it will make it 10 plus 5, which is 15. Then next C1 dot add from object method, this one, it will add the value from another object. So this time earlier it was 15, now 20 will be added. 15 plus 20 makes it 35, right? Now C1 dot show, it will give you the final output value as 35. So here C1 self is passed to add from object and used to update its value. This is a very important point here. Okay. Next, coming to a very important concept in Python, which is method overloading. So Python does not support the traditional method overloading, right? Like same method name with different parameters. But we can achieve it using default arguments. Okay, so like variable length arguments can be used. You can use default arguments for checking the number या फिर type of arguments. So method overloading gets possible. For example, let us try to use default arguments for method overloading. We have a class data and the method display. So it displays the message times number of times, right? So if message is none, it will show a hello. Now for something in range of times, we will print the message. So same method display works in different ways this time. Okay, so for example, we have an object here D. So D dot display will give you hello because we are passing none. Okay, and then d dot display, you pass hi this time. So for this one will be run and we will get hi. Next, now we are passing two arguments, welcome and 3. So d dot display welcome will give you welcome 3 times. Okay, so 3 times welcome will be printed. So the summary is that methods define behavior. Self refers to the current object or the calling object I, and then you can use methods to assess या फिर modify attributes. Self is the first parameter in every method, and method overloading can be achieved using default arguments, star args or star star KW args. Okay, so Python does not support the traditional method overloading, but you can achieve it through default arguments or the variable length arguments. Moving to the next topic, we have modularity. So what is modularity? It is the act of dividing a program into several other components, that is modules. So it helps you reduce complexity and create well-defined documented boundaries within your program. Alright, so you get documented boundaries. Next, moving on, we have the concept of inheritance. So as discussed, inheritance allows a new class, which is the child class, to inherit the properties of the parent class. Alright, so it promotes code reusability. In Python, the parent class, we call it as base class, and the child class would be the derived class. Always remember that superclass is the base class and subclass will be the derived class. For example, we have vehicle, right? A class vehicle would be the superclass, and inside it we have car as a class, so that would be considered a subclass, the derived class. Let us look at the example of inheritance. For example, we create a class parent and you mention the parent class code. Then you create class child and in brackets you mention the parent class. And then you can write the child class code. So here parent is created like a regular class only, whereas the child class is created by passing base class name as parameter. Here the base class is parameter is parent. Okay, the base class is parent here. Let us look at this example. We have a class animal. In it, we are defining the init method, which is automatically created. The parameters are self and name. On initializing, self.name is equal to name. We create another method, which is the speak method. It takes the parameter self. On printing, we get animal makes a sound. Now we are creating another class dog, which will be the child class. It inherits properties of the animal class, so you mention it in the brackets. Animal is the parent class here. You create another method, that is the bark, and we say dog barks. Then you create object D, you mention the class name in brackets, the argument, and then on calling the method using the dot operator, d.speak will give you animal makes a sound, and d.bark will give you dog barks. I hope it is clear. So a real world example of inheritance can be a dog is a type of animal. The common properties of animals like name, speed, etc. are taken from this class. Okay. So dog is the derived class and animal is the base class. Next we have method overriding. So when a child class provides a specific implementation of a method that is already defined in its parent class, it is called method overriding. For example, we have a parent class over here defined with methods show, and now you create a child class which inherits the properties of parent class, and you mention the same method. The method name remains same. So you are overriding the method in the child class. Alright. So note, we cannot override a method in the same class. So we have two different classes over here. For method overriding, there should be the concept of inheritance. Only then method overriding is possible. Let's have a look at the example. We have a class shape, the method area, and then you define a child class circle which inherits the properties of parent class, which is shape in this case. You are creating a method with the same name as the parent class, which is area. So this is termed as method overriding. Alright, so now we are creating an object S, and on calling S dot area using the dot operator, you are calling the area method. It will take you to the shape area. It will print shape area this time. And next you create another object circle, C dot area. On calling that, you will get the area of circle. Due to method overriding, area method which is in the circle class will be considered this time. So for a real world example, different vehicles have the same method name start, but their implementation is different, right? Next we have the concept of data hiding. So what is data hiding? It means hiding the internal details of data of an object from outside access and only allowing access through methods. So you can access anything inside a class through the methods only. It protects data from unintended modification. And how you can implement this data hiding? By using private attributes, which usually in Python are represented using double underscores. So these cannot be accessed directly, hence they prevent unintended modification. Okay, so for a real world example, your bank account, your balance is hidden from others. Only you can access it when you go to a bank, right? So you can access it only to the bank system. So methods like deposit, withdraw, check balance, all of these are accessible only to you. No one else can access it. Okay. So we have a class bank account here. The method in it, and inside it we are initializing the attribute. Here we are making use of double underscore. So this makes it a private attribute. Okay. Next we have another method which is the deposit method. We have mentioned the condition over here. If amount is greater than 0, then self dot, we are making use of the private attribute, right, plus equal to amount. Then another in which again we are using a private attribute. Then we have created an object bank account, and inside it we are passing 1000 as the balance. Then account dot deposit of 500 takes you to the deposit method. And now since the amount 500 is greater than 0, the balance would be updated, right? It will be updated by 500. So it will give you 1500 on using this method get balance. But in case you try to simply assess the balance, right? Self dot underscore underscore balance, that is not possible. That will give you an error because you are trying to assess a private attribute which cannot be assessed directly. Okay. Next we have abstraction. So what is abstraction? As discussed before, it means showing only the essential features to the user and hiding the internal details which are not required. So it is achieved using abstract classes and methods. Encapsulation is achieved using private attributes, and abstraction using abstract classes and methods. So let us have a look at the syntax now. So from ABC, you import ABC comma abstract method. Then you define my class, in brackets you mention ABC, @abstract method. You define the methods. Then we create another class, the child class, which inherits the properties of my class. We are making use of method overriding over here, def my method, and then This is abstraction. Let us take the help of a real world example. So it says a remote control shows only the buttons, right? The essential features like volume, change channels, and everything, but hides the internal circuitry. So that is an example of abstraction. Looking at a programming example, so we import the ABC module first, the abstract method. Then you create the shape class. You mention @abstract method. You define the method area and you pass it. Now you create a rectangle, a child class, a derived class, which takes the properties of shape class. So on using def init, a method, we are initializing the attributes like this. Now we are defining the area method, which will return self.l into self.b. So on creating the object R, class name, and in bracket the arguments, right? And then on printing the area, which is r.area, we get the area of 50. Okay, so this is the syntax and an example of abstraction. Let's quickly see what is written here. So inheritance supports the Azure relationship. Method overriding is also called runtime polymorphism. Okay, data hiding is achieved using encapsulation. Abstraction helps reduce complexity and increase security. These concepts together make our programs modular, reusable, secure, and easy to maintain. Let's have a look at the quick summary covering inheritance, method overriding, data hiding, and abstraction. So what is inheritance? When a child class inherits the properties of a base class, a parent class basically. So reusing properties and methods of another class is inheritance. For example, dog inherits the properties of animal class. We have method overriding. So child class provides its own implementation of parent class method, right? Data hiding, hiding internal data details and assessing it through methods. For example, the bank balance is private to you only. Abstraction, showing only the necessary, which is the essential features, and hiding implementation. We looked at the example of a remote, so remote control. Now, let's understand a very important concept which we have in inheritance. So, Python even allows multi-level inheritance. Now, what is multi-level inheritance? Let us understand it with the help of an example. For example, we take person as a base class. You take student as a derived class from person. Okay, so it inherits the properties of the person class, the base class. Now you create another class which is the address, which is derived from the student class. So now we can say that the address, on creating the instance of address, when you create an object of address, we can assess all the methods that are included in the student and the person class, right? So multi-level inheritance follows in this way. So address inherits the properties of both the student and person class. Student class inherits the properties of person class, and person class is the base class. I hope it is clear. Now let's have a look at the note that we have over here. So it says that a private method can be assessed only by methods of same class. Okay, always remember this, that a private method can only be assessed by methods of the same class. The class needs to be same. And a public method can be assessed anywhere, from anywhere, right? Let us have a look at this example. So we have a class car. We are defining the init method, which takes two arguments, self and model. We are initializing this, right? Self dot underscore underscore model. So this makes it a private variable. Next, we are creating another method, which is def underscore underscore display model. So now we have two underscores over here. So this would be a private method, right? New, we have another method which is the show method, and we are trying to access self dot underscore underscore display model. So we are trying to access a private method inside a class, and we have discussed that it is possible to access a private method just inside a class, right? Inside the same class. So yes, we can do it. Now this show method that we discussed will be a public method, and this, since we are writing underscore underscore and we are trying to access this method, so accessing the private method inside a class is possible. Next, we are creating an object car. We are writing the class name, which is car, and in brackets the arguments. Toyota is the model here. So on car.show, it will take you to this method and it will work fully. It calls the private method internally. So we'll get the model printed over here. Alright, now we have car dot underscore underscore display model. Here this won't work because it will give an error because private method cannot be accessed from outside, right? The previous case we were able to do it because private method can be accessed inside a class, but now since we are calling it directly, it cannot be accessed. In this case, car.show, it will give you model Toyota. Okay. Note here that Python does not have protected variables or methods which specifies the variables and methods that can be used by the derived classes. Alright, so that is it about OOPS in Python lesson, and I hope you understood it all.